You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Richie Bradshaw. I'm your guide for everything Arizona State Sun Devils. If you haven't noticed, if you're watching on YouTube, it's a little different setup for me. There's a bit of an echo, and I apologize for that. I am over at my sister and my brother-in-law's house to help hang out with the kids and everything like that. So we're going to make this a nice and tidy and very quick live episode. We're going to have some fun. We got to talk about the national championship game tomorrow night between the Buckeyes and the Fighting Irish. I have some thoughts on that. We're going to talk about it more on tomorrow's episode as well. So make sure that you are tuned in wherever you get your shows and turn on notifications so you get that update when that show posts tomorrow. I also want to talk about Jaden Daniels because everyone knows my thoughts and feelings on JD5, and seeing him go to the NFC Championship game has given me some thoughts. But let's go ahead and start with the national championship game. We're going to break it up into two parts of this live. First part that I want to talk about with the national championship game is I think there's a lot for ASU to gain in this national championship game in terms of what you can learn and what you can apply for yourself moving forward. So me, myself, I don't have a dog in this fight. I know that neither of these teams are very popular and that a lot of people are just kind of hoping for both teams to lose, unless, of course, you're a Notre Dame fan or you're an Ohio State fan. But this should be a really, really good national championship game. The thing that I'm excited the most with this national championship game, though, is the defenses. You look at the way that Ohio State and Notre Dame have built their teams, and you look at the way that they're winning games this year, it's because of how good their defense is. And this is something that I think ASU can learn a lot about, is looking at how these defenses have had their successes this year to get them to this point. This is especially true for Notre Dame. Like, Notre Dame's offense, it's been good enough. And I know their running back, Jeremiah Love, is a bona fide superstar. But, I mean, their passing attack is legitimately, historically, one of the worst passing offenses to go to a national championship game. But yet here they are because they run the football so well, but also because of how good that defense is. And they're good at every single level. They've got a really good defensive line, even though Riley Mills is out for them. Jack Kaiser is a great linebacker. That secondary is stacked. They don't even have Benjamin Morrison out there, but Xavier Watts is just, that dude is special at the safety spot. So when ASU is looking at Notre Dame, there's a lot here for them to take notes out of it, and especially because I think that the Sun Devils defense can replicate some of the success that Notre Dame has had. I mean, certainly in terms of the amount of talent that Notre Dame has, because you look at ASU's defense and there's plenty of next level players, and there's tons of guys who can emulate and do what Notre Dame has done very well. So let's take an example, Xavier Watts. Dude was one of the best safeties in college football this year, and he's going to be a next level player. Okay, well, that's Xavier Alford. Alford is a beast. He's a stud. He's a monster. And he will be back for his final season of collegiate football for Arizona State. He's coming off a first team all Big 12, not a nomination, but the selection. There you go. First team all Big 12 selection for this kid. Sky is the limit. There's a lot of good things that Alford does for you, and none more so than his qualities that he has shown as a leader, and the way that he commands the respect of the locker room, and the way that he's able to be that rah guy and get everybody really excited, and everybody is dialed in at the start of games, and he keeps them motivated and everything. That's something that Alford does really well, and that attitude and that mantra is going to be important for ASU to maintain as they enter year 3 of the Kenny Dillingham era, but also year 3 under Brian Ward, the defensive coordinator. And that consistency is also a really, really, really important aspect here for why ASU should be able to take a big step forward next year with their defense, which was already arguably the strength of the team this year, was the defense. So again, looking at Notre Dame, and there's a lot of next level players. There's a lot of next level players for ASU. Xavier Alford, Keyshawn Elliott, both of your corners, Jaden Robinson and Keith Abney, look like they can get there. Miles Rouser could potentially get there. The defensive line is deep with CJ Fight, with Jacob Rich-Klongaika, with Clayton Smith, with Elijah O'Neal. There's plenty of guys on this defense that should be able to have really good breakout seasons in 2025. Now let's look at the Buckeyes defense. Again, a lot of studs. They're not short anywhere on those. Their defensive line, those guys are all going to get drafted. Jack Sawyer, we all know who he is at this point. Jack Sawyer is probably the face of the national championship game going into tomorrow night. I mean, Jeremiah Smith. Yeah, Jeremiah Smith would be up there. Both the quarterbacks, Will Howard and Riley Leonard, Jeremiah Love would be up there too. But to me, it's Jack Sawyer and the way that Jack Sawyer has performed through these playoffs so far, especially because I think Jack Sawyer carried the Buckeyes to a win over Texas last week. He was so pivotal and so important for them to be able to get over that hump for what was a very close, tight game. And his game sealing strip sack that he housed for like 70 or 80 yards, something like that put the game away. So tomorrow night, when Ohio State takes the field and their defense takes the field, you better believe that all eyes are going to be on number 33. And there's going to be a lot of people that are going to talk about him throughout the game. He should be one of the main focuses for either team, for either side of the football. I imagine that Jack Sawyer will be one of the most talked about players. But it's not just Jack Sawyer. Again, that whole defensive line's going pro. JT Tuimoloau, Ty Hamilton, and oh my God, who's their other? That's going to kill me. Tyleik Williams. There it is. Tyleik Williams. The whole defensive line is going to be going to the pros. Colin Simon, their linebacker, has had a huge year, especially knowing that he had to step up and replace Eichenberg, which Eichenberg had one of the best seasons that the Buckeyes have seen last year at linebacker in a handful of years. Their secondary looks great. They've got Lathan Ransom. They've got Caleb Downs, who, if Xavier Watts is not the best safety in college football, I probably would go with Caleb Downs. He's just he is a superstar. He was a superstar his freshman year at Alabama. He is a superstar as a sophomore with Ohio State. Denzel Burke is a really good corner. They've just got a great defense from top to bottom. And again, this is something that I think Arizona State needs to pay attention to, and something that Arizona State should be interested in trying to emulate when they go into the 2025 season. You look at the amount of talent that's on both sides, or not both sides, on both teams for Notre Dame's defense and for Ohio State's defense. ASU, I don't think they're that far behind. Especially one of the things right now is the biggest example I can think of was Texas. And going into the game, and rightfully so, I don't have any hard feelings or anything like that, because it makes sense to me why they thought this. Is Texas came in and they're like, oh, well, ASU doesn't have anything. You know, their defense is fine, but they don't have any big time players. And I think the biggest reason for that stigma that they had was simply because they didn't have the recognition going into the year, but they will have the recognition going into 2025. So you will see more conversations about Xavier Alford, about Jaden Robinson, Keith Abney, Keyshawn Elliott, Jordan Crook, CJ Fight, Clayton Smith, Prince Dorba. There's a lot of very, very, very good football players on the Sun Devils defense. You also look at how they were one of the best defenses in the Big 12 and one of the better defenses in the country, especially against stopping the run. They were terrific. They're returning so much of that unit. I feel pretty confident that they're going to be able to replicate the same success that they had last year. And with more of the nation paying attention to Arizona State, and with these guys continuing to have the continuity inside the Brian Ward scheme, you're going to start seeing that recognition for these guys. Now, look, are a lot of these guys first-round picks? Probably not, or at least not as of now. Maybe they could work their way there, but that's also something that's going to go against them. Look at the Ohio State defense. How many of those guys are first-round picks? Caleb Downs in 2026, slam dunk first-round pick. Jack Sawyer is probably going to work his way into the first round. You could see JT Tuimoloau potentially find his way into the first round. I know Tyleik Williams is a really, really popular name right now. They've got guys that are going to fight for the first round. Notre Dame, Xavier Watts is going to fight to get in the first round. Benjamin Morrison, who again, he's not even playing, is going to fight his way into the first round. And they've just got a lot of guys who are going to get drafted. Well, ASU doesn't have that, at least as of right now. What they have is a really great core on their defense, and that should be enough to really help them emulate what we're seeing with the successes from Notre Dame and Ohio State this year. Outside of Cam Scadaboo, I truly think the biggest strength of this Sun Devils team in 2024 was the defense. They did so many things right. The only thing they didn't do was turn their pressures into sacks. And that is a big deal. And it was something that I think we saw over the course of the season was ASU's inability to bring down the quarterback on a consistent week-to-week basis. The pressure is great. And sometimes sacks are an overrated stat. But you also got to have sacks, and ASU just didn't have that. Other than that, I mean, they were forcing turnovers. They were stopping the run. They had plenty of guys who were playing at an extremely high level. How many guys were either on an all-conference team for the Big 12 or had honorable mentions for it? I mean, there's a lot that's going on there. And again, the consistency and the continuity of having Brian Ward back for year 3 with the program is going to be huge. So ASU, I think tomorrow night during the national championship game, needs to be paying a lot of attention for how these defenses are performing on the field. ASU's got the weapons on offense, and Jordan Tyson is a stud in his own right, and Sam Leavitt is going to continue to grow and be a good quarterback. But I don't think that ASU should be focusing on what Ohio State is doing on offense, and with no offense to the Fighting Irish, certainly not what they're doing, because they've gotten to this point because of how great that defense is and having a great run game. So if you're going to look at Notre Dame, I think what you would want to see is how they are so effective at running the football and how it masks and makes up for an inability to pass the football the way that other programs can. But other than that, I think ASU gets way more out of tomorrow night by watching how the defenses are performing. All right, let's go ahead and flip the script. Let's talk about the Commanders going to the NFC Championship game and Jaden Daniels taking them to that point. It's not a secret. If you listen to the show or if you have spoken with me in person, you know my feelings on Jaden Daniels. And to keep it nice and brief, they're fine, I guess. It's not a team I certainly thought would be able to get this far, but Jaden Daniels has really been able to put the team on his back. And I mean, he's having a offensive rookie of the year season. He has put together some MVP level numbers. He's not going to get it because it's going to be between Lamar and Josh Allen. But I mean, there's still a lot of really good things that they will be able to work on for the remainder of this year and then moving forward into next year. There's a lot of good stuff, and so much of that has been based off of the way that Jaden Daniels has performed. And look, at the end of the day, my personal feelings for Jaden Daniels, they're to the side, whatever. I'm not a fan. It is what it is. What I will not ever be able to deny is that he is just flat out a good football player, and he is somebody that has always been a franchise/program changing player. The moment that he got to Arizona State in the 3 years he was here, they were a very good, very competitive football team. Now, unfortunately, in his third year, because the coaching staff just did not know how to maximize the running ability and the pure athletic talent that Jaden Daniels had, he wasn't able to reach the ceiling the way that he did at LSU, because he gets to LSU and he sits down with Brian Kelly and he sits down with the weapons that they have there and the offensive line and everything that he was set up with. And look at that. He's really, really solid as a senior. And then he goes on to win the Heisman Trophy as a graduate player. He had a great career at LSU, and everyone will associate him with LSU. And not only is that the right thing to do, but I would prefer it be that way. I don't want his name linked with Arizona State. It's a lot of personal feelings, I understand, but at the end of the day, when people think of Jaden Daniels, they should think of LSU. Now he goes to the pros, second overall pick, and he transcends this Commanders roster. Now, I wasn't high on the Commanders going into the season with or without Jaden Daniels. I did not like the Dan Quinn hire. I did not think that defense was going to be good enough to deliver a consistent pass rush, and I didn't think that there was enough weapons on offense that was not named Terry McLaurin to be able to carry this team. But you plug in Jaden Daniels and look at everything that he fixes. The offensive line, still not great, and that was a huge weakness going into this season. But he's able to improvise, and that ability to make the off-script throws, the off-script plays, improvising and everything, which one is what he excels at. But that's something that was really able to help the Commanders stay on top of what they were trying to do, what they were building, and they were wildly successful. You also look at the fact that he's just a great athlete and he's a great football player. He elevated the talent around him. Brian Robinson, a so-so running back who's going to be in the NFL for 10 years because he's solid. He's not great. He's not terrible. He's solid. Brian Robinson had really good success. Terry McLaurin, to the surprise of no one, had a career year in the touchdowns department. He had really good yards, especially for starting the year. It was at least the first 2 games. It might have been the first 3 games. He was just non-existent, but he turned into a star. De'Ami Brown has been one of the best receivers in the playoffs. Zach Ertz had a really quality year. Jaden Daniels' ability to just distribute the football has been really, really good this year, but it's also the fact that he's been able to do so much improvising because of how good he is. It's not even like because Washington is letting him down. That's not the case at all. It's just that's how good of a football player that Jaden Daniels is he has that ability to pretty much do whatever he wants. Some guys are simply too talented and there's nothing you can do. Like it's one of those, like, all you can do is tip your cap because he's doing whatever he wants. And that's Jaden Daniels this year. So he's taken the Commanders to the NFC Championship game. And again, they have outperformed my expectations from the regular season. Certainly, I thought they were going to be picking in the top 5 again. But they also they're a game away from going to the Super Bowl. And right now, with the way that team is playing, as much as it pains me to say this, they've got a shot. You don't have to be the best team. You got to be the hottest team at this point in the year. And the Commanders are playing as good a football as anybody else is in the NFC right now and in the NFL, period. Now, I went upstairs to record this before I saw the final results of the Eagles and Rams game. In fact, it might still be going on. Nope, they just finished up. So it's going to be Eagles Commanders. That should be a really good matchup, especially because that Eagles defense is so good and they have the fast, athletic guys to potentially contain the Commanders. But, we'll see, because with the way Jaden Daniels is playing right now, I mean, he's doing historical things. I can't remember the last time we saw a rookie quarterback take his team to the conference championship game. I think Ben Roethlisberger did it. And I know that Russell Wilson took the Seahawks pretty far. I don't think they went to a championship, though. And that's about it. And even then, I'm not 100% sure on Big Ben. I think so, but I'd have to look it up. We have not seen this level of success from a rookie quarterback, and not just a rookie quarterback, going to a team that was just garbage last year. They were picking second overall for a reason, and it wasn't because they traded up. They earned the second overall pick. And yet they have turned this thing around so quick. Side note, I did not like the Dan Quinn hire. I thought that Dan Quinn had clearly shown that he was okay as a head coach, but he was much better as a coordinator. I feel like we knew what he was. So him going to Washington, it just felt like a stopgap solution at best. And for new ownership that was there, because you have the collective of everyone. I can't remember the main guy's name, but Magic Johnson is one of those guys and everything. But the collective that came in to turn around this franchise, first of all, they turned it around in 1 year. That's insane. Second of all, I thought they were kicking the can down the road. I did not think that it was a good pickup for the team. And I certainly didn't think it was a good move for Jaden Daniels, who was a rookie quarterback who was always going to have to face the obstacle of adjusting to the NFL, but they tailored everything perfectly around him. And now he's just a really good football player. How insane is it too for Arizona sports fans that not only is Jaden Daniels, after he spurned Arizona State, going to the NFC Championship game, but his offensive coordinator is Cliff Kingsbury, the former Cardinals head coach. And yeah, he's taking them to an NFC Championship game, and he has coached Jaden Daniels at such a high level. It's exceptional. I already said that it's historic what he's doing, but we truly cannot overstate what he is doing for that franchise and in such a short amount of time. And again, I feel like there are still areas where they can improve that offense for Jayden to be even better. I certainly think that the offensive line needs a makeover, a remake. I think that there's still a need for some wide receiver depth. Again, De'Ami Brown has been phenomenal in this postseason run, but is he sustainable for the long term? I don't know. Terry McLaurin is great. Zach Ertz is fine. They need to get Jayden some more weapons. But you look at what he's doing right now, it's hard to argue that he's not doing very special things. And this bugs me as a Sun Devils fan. And the reason why it bugs me, and I put a poll out on the YouTube page. If you haven't voted on it, go and vote on it for how you guys felt about Jayden having this success. And the majority of the votes were saying, good for Jayden, happy he's succeeding in everything. So to you guys, props to you. I have a lot of how do I want to word it? I have a lot of discontent that I am holding still with Jaden Daniels because of the way that everything ended at Arizona State and the way that he left, the way that he in the darkest point in program history. And after he had said that he was going to be returning, for him to very quickly turn his tail and leave the program, that sucked and that hurt. But you know what? He ended up doing the best thing for his career. He goes to a team that knows how to maximize his skill set. Wins a Heisman Trophy, number 2 overall pick. He's not doing either of those at Arizona State. Now, when Kenny Dillingham got here in 2023, if Jayden had stayed all the way to 2023, I do think that Jayden would have had a monumental year at Arizona State. That being said, I do not think it would have been anything close to what he was able to accomplish with the LSU Tigers. So yeah, he made the right decision for himself, but he spurned the program and he left us in the dust in the worst time period of this program. Now, if you want to be that glass half full person instead of me, the glass half empty, and someone who holds a grudge, I mean, we can call that as it is. He did help ASU in the sense of getting them Kenny Dillingham and everything, because him leaving took ASU down to such a low point that they fire Herm Edwards 3 games into the 2022 season. And then they I wouldn't say they tanked that year because they just were not a good football team that year, but it leads to Kenny Dillingham getting here. If Jaden Daniels stays for 2022, there's a chance that they win just enough football games to kick the can down the road for another season with Herm Edwards, because I don't think you're a 3-win team that year. I think you're closer to a 5, maybe a 6-win team. And again, that would have kept Herm around longer. And think about that for a second. When you think about Herm staying for even one more year, and how 2023 Kenny Dillingham gets here and we get the self-imposed bowl ban. First of all, with hindsight, that ended up being the right move, because the NCAA would have taken our eligibility away for this year and we wouldn't have gone to the playoff. So that ended up being a blessing in disguise, maybe one of the only things that we can thank Ray Anderson for doing for this program. But, at the time we didn't know that. And at the time, it really, really sucked what Jayden did to the program. And I can appreciate the way everything played out. At the end of the day, I am simply not able to give Jaden Daniels any props. I'm not able to thank him for it, because I am a very petty person. I just can't get there. But you know what? Again, at the end of the day, ASU was in a much better spot for it compared to where they were when he was with this program. And if he had stuck it out for another year, I don't think Kenny Dillingham is coming here. He may have gotten picked up by another program. I'm really curious when you look back to 2022 and ASU hired him at the end of the season. I don't think they even waited a week to hire him. I think the season ended in Tucson, and then within the next week or two, he was hired on to be the head coach of the Sun Devils. Like, they were ready to make that move very, very quickly. And again, one of the few things that Ray Anderson got right with the program was bringing in Kenny Dillingham. But I don't know that Kenny Dillingham is with the program in 2023 if Jaden Daniels stays. And I don't know if another team would have hopped on him. He was a very hot, very popular name by this point in time as a coach. And he was a young dude, and he was innovative, and look what he did at Florida State, and look what he did at Oregon. I don't know that ASU would have been able to pluck him at that point in time. It's a very interesting thought, I suppose, would be the way that you could go about it. Is in one sense, you're thankful that everything played out the way it did. But in another sense, if you're like me at least, and you're petty about it, you look back and you're still upset and everything. Hopefully, you guys don't hold on to the grudge that I have. And I hold a grudge, man. Like, it's one of my worst qualities about myself. Maybe one day I will be able to get past everything that happened with Jaden Daniels, Herm Edwards, and the end of their era of Sun Devils football. And we very, very quickly turned things around. Second year into Kenny Dillingham, we went to the college football playoff. No one saw that coming. And a huge part of it is for being at the point that we were at. We had to get to the lowest point in program history to be able to get to arguably the highest point in program history. It's crazy. A couple of comments here, and then we are going to wrap this bad boy up, because I am going to watch my Baltimore Ravens take on the Buffalo Bills, really hoping that they can get the win. We'll wait and see. Low Tone Capone, I appreciate you tuning in. You are one of my favorite supporters, even though I don't have favorites, but, Wesder 4, what's going on? I see you all the time in here, I'm pretty sure. It's so weird seeing JD5 have the success that he is when thinking about his last couple of years at ASU, right? And especially 2021, 10 touchdowns at 10 picks, and he was horrible. But again, you put him in an offense with a team that knows how to use him. Look at the success that a kid who sky is the limit for him as an athlete. Pretty good football player. No doubt Herm had a lot to do with that in a negative way, since he goes on to win the Heisman. Still leaves a bad taste in my mouth knowing it had it in him. Yeah. And I think that's probably my biggest problem is, again, the pettiness, but to look back and it's like, well, he was always that good. We just couldn't get him out of him. But that's more on us than it is Jaden Daniels. All right, a couple more comments here, and then we are wrapping it up. Low Tone Capone again. He's always had good things to say about his time in Tempe, so for that, I'm cool with his success. And then Wesder, such as life, full support behind Sam Levitt. 100% agree with the Sam Levitt and Low Tone Capone. That is a much better way to think about it than the way that I think about it. I am just, at least right now, I'm not ready to get to that point. Maybe one day I will. But he has been complimentary of Tempe. I don't know. I don't know. But I appreciate you guys for hopping into the live. I know this wasn't the best timed one because, competing with the NFL playoffs is certainly not ideal, but that's just the card that we were dealt for this situation. Maybe next weekend I'll do it on a Saturday instead of a Sunday to avoid competing with the NFL playoffs. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. You can always hit me up on Twitter at RichieBrads36. The podcast is there at LO_Sun Devils. You guys are the best, though. This is going to be up and available wherever. You can rewatch it on YouTube if you have not. If you did not get to see the beginning, it's also going to be up wherever you're getting your podcast. So Spotify, Apple Music, all that good stuff. So that's going to be available for you guys. You're all the best. Here's hoping for a Baltimore Ravens win. I will see you guys tomorrow. Until next time, you keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun Devils.